Hello, everyone. Welcome to Inside Music Curation. We're the team at Feed Media Group. And as always, I'm joined here by my esteemed music curation team, colleagues. Thank you guys for joining us. And it's that time of year. It's the end of the year. We just put out our 2025 year in music, specifically diving into what's been going on in the world of music as it pertains to fitness, which we program for a variety of clients. So, ready to dive in. I feel like 2025 was a very interesting year. I could almost just start the conversation by saying, like, what just happened? Like, what just happened? What happened this year? Lots of genre blending, things going on. Where do you guys want to start? Let's talk about genres this year. I think, for the first time on our report, we had a lot more R&B. We had Texas Hold'em at the top of the chart. This is pretty different from our straightforward pop list that we've had in the past. So anyone want to dive in and take a first chat at that?
I'll jump in. Yeah, I think the crossover is really a reflection of what we are seeing just generally on even just Billboard charts. You have a lot more artists making music, I think, especially within country, that's getting a lot of mainstream play as well. Whether, it's artists like Shabuzi or Miles Smith has sort of some like folky crossover in that realm as well. So obviously Beyonce is her own force to be reckoned with, and with something as catchy as this, it sort of dominating both sort of our pop programming, in addition to fitting in some other niche genres as well. It's what put it at the top.
Awesome. But anyone else want to chime in on Beyonce being at the top of the chart here, or what else you noticed from our top 10 this year?
Well, I feel like this year was 2024 had a lot of major releases by superstar musicians, and this year had some 2025, but fewer. I almost feel like objectively, and it kind of opened up the playing field for more variety of cross genre performances, different artists that you maybe wouldn't expect, like Miles Smith or some others, made space for some new arrivals like Raven Lenae, Olivia Dean. Ray is finally starting to blow up, so I think it just kind of opened up the playing field from the real juggernaut pop players that we heard a ton of in 2024. Now, with Beyonce being at the top of the list, I just think it's a bunch of things, and among, the main thing is everything she touches is gold. And so it's a great song, Texas Hold'em. It's poppy enough for country fans, and it's country enough for pop fans. So we were able to program it across a lot of our music, and we didn't get high skip rates on that because it's a banger. But I think 2025 was a year for some fresh, interesting things that we didn't predict, and some of them we'll get into later, including one marquee Netflix movie that I certainly didn't see coming.
Well, let's talk about that. Let's talk about that for a minute, because I think that was one of the surprises this year of like, what happened. We went from Brat Summer in 2024 to kind of starting out the summer going, what's going to be the summer hit this year? What's going to be picked up? And I don't know that anyone would have predicted K-pop Demon Hunters taking that place.
No, it's a really interesting sort of study in the relationship between visual media as a means of promotion also. So I suspect we might see some things trending, but I also think like it's also kind of an example of kind of the K-pop business model being slightly more Americanized in a way, in that and in the process bringing it to US based audiences, because you've also got Cat's Eye had a lot of success, and they're a US based but formulated in the style of and visual of K-pop. So that's kind of an interesting yeah, just sort of like cultural exchange moment we're kind of seeing. But yeah, it's got Golden was the big breakout song. It's so anthemic that I've heard it at a football stadium and I've heard it on the radio. And so when you can get that level of like pervasive sort of like mood spread there of everyone's excited to hear it in many different places, whether you're alone in your car or with thousands of people, that'll make you a hit.
Well, and I know we've talked about it in the past, but for like the fitness music charts and what we see at Feed FM, it takes time for things to make it, right? Like our top 10 is generally things from last year that have kind of solidified their place in workout soundtracks. How much of the K-pop soundtrack, Demon Hunter soundtrack, is coming into fitness stations? Is it appropriate there? Do you think that we'll see it show up on our list next year?
I was a little hesitant to, even this year, even last year, to program a lot of the K-pop stuff into the fitness playlist that we create for our clients, because I'm like, I don't know, like, half of the song is in a different language, and it's just gonna go over okay. But like, I think in our case, 90% of the time you've got a fitness instructor kind of talking over the music. The music's in the background anyway, so it's really just about the beat and the melodies and
energy.
Yeah, it's the energy. Yeah, exactly.
Awesome. Well, I'd say another trend that we've continued to see this year is, women in pop are kind of ruling the world here. We had 8 out of 10 of our top 10 songs were female artists. I think that this was a trend that has, started over the last couple of years, and something that you guys predicted. How do you want to keep the conversation going around women showing up in pop music this year?
Yeah, it's been one of the, I think, it's both obvious and exciting at the same time. When you look at sort of like who the main girlies are, as it were. So Sabrina Carpenter, Chappell Roan, Dua Lipa, Ariana Grande, Beyonce, Taylor Swift. Like, it's undeniable that is pop music, and that is the sound of today, from a mainstream point of view. And I think like they're all doing a really good job of like kind of being, even throw Billie Eilish in there, less prominent this year, but like they're all sort of have their mini experiments within pop. And I think they've all found ways to innovate and like push the genre down different avenues. So I think that's what makes, yes, it's easy to sort of say like, oh, well, like it's just pop music, but they're making some pretty significant impact there.
Yeah, just to quickly echo, I think it isn't just the fact that they're tremendous performers and in many cases songwriters, but the fact that there is a huge variety in the pop music they make, that it can cover a lot of different programmatic needs. And we're not running out of amazing bangers that we can use from Ariana Grande and Dua Lipa. And there's also this continuing trend of, whether it's Taylor Swift a couple of years ago releasing the album and then the deluxe version 2 days later, or this year Tate McRae, or even Sabrina Carpenter with, I think she did this with Short and Sweet. I know that Charlie XCX did it with Brat, that there's always more, and it's not a bad thing. It's not just filler. A lot of times there's killer too. It's not filler, but killer.
Awesome. Well, one genre shift we saw a little bit this year is, hip hop falling from the charts a little bit. I know we still program a lot with it in Throwback, but who wants to talk a bit about hip hop showing up in 2025?
Yeah, I will. Hip hop had a lull this year, but saying that also is saying that hip hop had quite an amazing year, because it had Kendrick Lamar at the Super Bowl. Even though GNX was released at the end of 2024, Luther's been a pretty much mainstay in the top 40 this whole year. But as far as the genre as an entirety, it has definitely seen a lull. There's not many really like prime time releases that happened this year. Like we had some releases from like Young Thug and Cardi B, but a lot of like the more predominant, even Drake, but even thinking about that, like, you know, the landscape of hip hop has changed a lot. And I think that after the 50th year anniversary, I think that it's one of those things where it's a reset. And what we might see in the future is like, you know, something different. But again, like this year was just not the best for hip hop.
Well, and even if you look at, you know, we did our Sizzle Station with Cardi B selects and her new album that came out. Like, how did that vary from maybe hip hop releases that we've seen in the past?
As far as
like Cardi's, like if we look at Cardi's album as an example, what were some things that stand out about that album that might be surprising?
Yeah, Cardi did a lot of really fun things with that album. She did some exploration in Latin music with Bodega Baddies. She was able to, you know, even I think there is an Afrobeat song in there. I'm trying to remember the name of, but I can't remember it. But yeah, I mean, she definitely got into her bag. A lot of other hip hop artists got into their bag, but I mean, I think that the thing with Cardi and her album, it was a surprise, right? And also she's pregnant and there's like all of these things going on with her. And so it's like, you know, I have the utmost respect for someone who can juggle that many plates, right? Yeah. But I think that when it comes to having a pretty you know, dominant record, you need to be able to like tour and promote and all of that. And so, you know, I don't think her album really like failed on like you know, musical content, but as far as like maybe promotion and things of that nature, that's why it just didn't have the legs that it did.
I think there's an interesting sorry to jump in, like, because I know some articles got published of like there's yeah, for the first time there isn't a charting, I believe it was hip hop album, not just songs. Yeah. For the first time in like 35 years, something like that. But I think as someone who likes and appreciates hip hop, but pays more attention to country, the borrowing of hip hop beats in country right now is also a part of like country's growth and success in a huge way. So like you have the Morgan Wallen of it all. But there are some newer guys. Hudson Westbrook is one in that mold where, yeah, the beat comes in and you're like, yeah, that's hip hop. So while maybe pure hip hop, I think that's why we like talking about the crossover. Yeah, maybe less so for pure hip hop, but the influence of that genre and that sound is definitely not going away. Yeah. It's reshaped slightly. Alongside some country instrumentation, which is fun. I like it. The Big X the Plug country crossovers, I'm here for it.
Yeah, the country hip hop thing is really a great call out. And you know, the Morgan Wallen songs, my dog's going crazy. I think she wants to get in on the hip hop conversation, but you can't, babe. Sorry. The Morgan Wallen thing, I mean, a lot of his songs have literally trap beats, right? It's that double time, kind of 140 BPM, which I remember when I first started hearing him make that music a few years ago, it was really like, whoa, almost jarring. And now it's become really mainstream. And to Claire's point, it's borrowing those aspects of hip hop and bringing it into country in a really interesting way that's super effective. And it also has that energy that's really good for fitness to be programming that. And I think a couple other things about, you know, hip hop and Cardi B, you know, she released the album 2 weeks before Taylor's new album. And even in a non, you know, era where it hadn't just come after the, you know, this massive tour, I think Taylor Swift would have kind of rewritten whatever was on the Billboard charts. And sure enough, she rewrote what was on the Billboard charts with her tremendous new album. And we're seeing a lot of R&B this year too. So I think there's a lot of space being taken up by, you know, sometimes when you think about what's great for fitness music, is it pop or is it hip hop, right? And this year it's like there's a wild variety. There's country, there's R&B, there's a rock resurgence happening, which is really fun and exciting that I know we want to talk about. So there's just a lot of, even though there weren't as many, as I said, kind of predicted superstar releases, there's a huge upswelling of music and variety. And for us as curators, that makes it a lot of fun.
Yeah, I think that's a really important call out, is that, music for fitness is filling a very specific use case, right? And so a year when hip hop might not be as driven our way because maybe there is more of an R&B vibe or R&B features, or things are slowing down, that same genre is affecting country in a positive way, and we're seeing more country in fitness because it's got this hip hop influence that's raising it up. So it's just, I think the real synopsis of the whole year is that genres just continue to blend and merge, and it's not as clear cut as it used to be. Talk a little bit about the art, because R&B really never showed up in our genre pie chart, if you will, in years past. Tell me about what we're seeing there or hearing, and how you guys are curating with that.
I think for how we end up programming, R&B does sort of end up splitting the middle between pop and hip hop. Some of those end up feeling a little bit like they're going to get radio play. Kehlani is going to be in that mix, that kind of a thing. But then sometimes there are collaborations with hip hop artists, or Doja Cat's on a verse, or Cardi B's on a verse. And so it gives it kind of some hip hop flavor as well. So I think that's sort of part of, there is some double dipping as far as where they end up in our stations.
Yeah, there's a lot of we're seeing a lot more of our fitness clients have yoga modalities and warm up and cool down, and R&B fits right in that pocket, so it's working there.
And Juan, you were talking a little bit about R&B and country. How did you put that?
Yeah, so Claire was saying it was more hip hop. I'm thinking it's more R&B, but that's okay. We can differ.
Yeah, or both.
So yeah, and I mean, it's not that it's not hip hop, right? It's just that the vocals are more. It's rhythm and blues, right? It's Ray Charles, the cornerstone of rhythm and blues, and so when you're mixing country and R&B together, it's like now we have this kind of bridge where, I mean, what was it started by Beyonce? Probably not necessarily, but she's a huge pillar to that, right? And now we're seeing, not that Kane Brown wasn't around when Beyonce did that, but we're starting to see people come up in that area, whether it be Shabuzi, or Neo has a new country album coming out, which the first song I heard is pretty great, which I wasn't expecting, but I thought it was awesome. And then he had something like Jelly Roll, right? Where Jelly Roll is doing stuff on hip hop beats, but he's also singing, and it's like this crooner R&B-ish type vibe, even though it has that country sentimentality. But yeah, there's a bridge now that's there, and I think that's another reason why we've been able to program R&B so much, is because, as we were saying before, the genres are blending, right? And so that's that R&B country bridge that I was talking about.
Yeah, I think there's a shared sense of soul.
Yeah.
Between the two of both sort of honoring that tradition as well.
Absolutely.
Makes sense. When we talked about, R&B affecting these, and then one, you made mention to Afrobeats as well. And that's, playing a role in what we're curating, and we're starting to see some more up-tempo music come out of that very wide variety genre as well.
Yeah. One of the things I actually had the pleasure of writing an article for Feed about Afrobeats, and in my research, one of the things that I found very interesting was the relationship of Afrobeats and virality, right? Whether it be the timing of the song, the orchestration of the song, and how it performs online and apps and things of that nature. It was something I actually didn't realize at first. But these producers really do have this in mind, because they're trying to, essentially conquer, some people wanted to conquer the CD, some people conquered, the MP3, and now people want to conquer streaming platforms, right? And so this is a great way of doing it. And this last year, we've definitely seen some really cool things, especially Afrobeats kind of mixing up with grime. And some examples of that is Dave, who's a grime artist, in Thames. They have a song called Rain Dance. Been programming that a bunch. And there's another one, maybe not a home name, but definitely a big name in Afrobeats, Asake and Jay Haas. They have a song called Gold that's also just like super crunchy, very, very like finely tuned, like grime and Afrobeat mix. And aside from that, right, there's also kind of like it's speeding up a tad bit, right? And by that I mean like it's probably not like oh, we're gonna start working out like we're gonna program this next to like a Major Lazer song, right? But as a genre, as an Afrobeat genre, it's actually kind of stepping up in beat. One of the songs that we've been programming lately is Omole's Waste, which has almost kind of like a house kind of vibe to it, which lends itself to stretching, but also can lend itself to kind of like cardio. So yeah, Afrobeats is definitely taking shapes to different shapes, and that's really empowering, especially for programming.
Awesome. And then I want to make sure that we have some time to talk about rock here before we wrap up, because we're seeing both new rock and also throwback and some pop punk coming back as well. So Juan, do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, sure. The first thing I want to say is turnstile, baby. Turnstile. No, but honestly, one of the things about rock this last year, or actually what's been going on since COVID, is that it's only been growing. There's a newfound like respect and or kind of appreciation for instruments and music. I mean, I think we see that trend with like country and different aspects or different genres. But mainly when it comes to pop punk, right? Pop punk is something that was something that was laughed at in the 2000s, and I think now that we're getting the critical acclaim, and we're having new players, new artists that are coming in to play, it's legitimizing the genre and giving it like a whole second wind, right? And I think that trends in rock, they last longer than other genres. So whereas like, normally we'd be like, oh, last year was pop punk, this year is death metal, right? That's not what happens in rock. In rock, most likely, it's more cyclical. Every 3-4 years, things change. So as far as pop punk, like in the year 2026, I only see it continuing to do well because there's a bunch of anniversary albums that are coming out that are exceptional for us older cats. But then, these new kids are going to appreciate what it is because it's a part of the fabric of what that community and what that sound is. I've already talked a lot.
And stretch us back further because it's topical, Mike. Talk to us about some of the reunion tours and whatnot. Stretch and rock, even older than the 2000s.
Oh my God. I already bought tickets. My birthday is at the end of September of next year, and I already bought tickets to fly to Los Angeles to see Iron Maiden, Megadeth, and Anthrax play a show. And I mean, like, Iron Maiden's touring. I think Def Leppard's got a Vegas residency. Bon Jovi is going to be touring. So yeah, a lot of that sort of 80s metal is new again.
Nostalgia is a powerful thing.
Yeah, I think there's rumors that Oasis might go around too. Also,
I bet. Yeah.
That I was surprised they made it through the whole thing, and didn't break up in the midst of it. But
one of the best.
They made the money and they proved it. So
incredible.
That's what I've been hearing.
Well, it's been quite a year. Lots of, like you said, it really comes down to very fluid genres. Everything's influencing everything, continuing to see lots of people featuring and taking music to new places. What do you guys think? We're going to wrap up here on our 2026 predictions. What's going to happen next year, Mike?
What's going to happen? I've got a few ideas here. I mean, like I said, everything old is new again. I think, people are always going to fall back to music that they're familiar with, especially in some trying times. Like how you during the pandemic, you would go back and you'd watch old episodes of Friends because it was like comfort television. I think that people are looking for comfort music, and I think that a lot of that old music is going to sort of resurface. But to that as well, I was thinking about this. And this, I don't want to be a kind of a Debbie Downer here, but like, I feel the resurgence of the sort of 2000s recession pop coming, and but along with that, there'll be sort of that bedroom folk pop that also came out around that same time to sort of balance it off. But I feel like we're going to get a rehash of that. Maybe that's new artists in those genres, but we'll see.
Yeah, I heavily agree with that, Mike. Right now, the folk scene is actually getting really, really cool. There's an artist, Hudson Freeman, who has a couple songs out. Actually, one of the songs got covered by John Mayer, who never actually covers really anything online, which is kind of cool. But aside from that, oh, go ahead.
Oh no, I was just gonna say, like with the sort of influx of all this AI slop, I think people are gonna try to go back to hearing real music by real artists. So that'll be refreshing.
Yeah, absolutely. And also, just to even further your point, what's really interesting with the folk scene right now is kind of like the lo-fi kind of vibes that they have. So it's kind of like, to your point, yeah, it's like almost a reaction against AI. So it's really cool.
I'd say 2 predictions for 2026. The country wave is not finished, and I'm not as fluent on country as Claire is, but I think you've got savvy pop musicians that are taking country influences, and then you've got country stars that are experimenting. I mean, our top country artists of the year, when I looked at them, were Morgan Wallen and Jelly Roll, and both of those guys really, as we've talked about, are great about branching out behind what's typically country. So country is still large and in charge right now. And then as far as what's going to hit the top of the charts, it's going to be a split. It's going to be a split, as we saw this year, between major known, hit makers like Ariana Grande and Lady Gaga, et cetera, and then new TikTok upstarts like Alex Warren and, Lola Young and Somber, musicians that you can't really see coming unless you're really plugged into TikTok. I mean, I feel like we're starting to see that kind of split off branch. Really, there's kind of these 2 paths to be at the top of the charts, to like pay to play, or you've paid dues and you make awesome, amazing music with Max Martin, or you gun it out crazy hard on TikTok and some of that stuff, leaps out at you.
Yeah, for me, as far as what I'm anticipating for 2026, I think the later quarter of the year saw a real push from female artists from the UK. So we've mentioned Ray and Olivia Dean and Lily Allen. And I think as far as, women in pop, those ladies will be joining our American reigning pop princesses. In our top, I think, they've been pretty well-known entities in the UK in recent years, and Lily Allen especially over a decade ago even. And I think we'll really take a strong hold in the US as well. And I've seen an interesting, like, I don't know, I call it the like TikTok proof of concept, where a certain sound like the Alex Warren or whatever, or even like the Morgan Wallen, and then labels start looking for artists in those similar veins. And so I think we're seeing a lot of that as well.
New sounds, mixing genres, new artists, favorite artists, throwback. It's all there, the world of music, right? Well, awesome. Well, as always, I appreciate your expertise. Thank you for lending it. And if you're tuning in now, make sure to check it out. We've got a link to the full report in comments. You can see all the inside details on top artists, top songs, top genres, and a little more insight into what we saw this year. So thanks again for tuning in. Thank you guys for your time. And you can follow along with us at feed.fm or subscribe here. We'll be back next month with some more insights on inside music curation. Thanks, you guys.
Thanks.
Thanks.